Listen, that motorcycle chariot, very cool. I thought there was some very cool bike and bike related activities going on.
Right, but like just to be a tangent, how does that start? Like, how do you start it?
Well, you would have to start when you have to start all three bikes
At the same time.
Yeah. Well, no, you can start them all at different. You'd have to go over and be like,
but I mean, like they would need to all be started to like go, right? And all you see him is pull it. And I'm like, how does that work? And then when he lets go, it just dies. I'm like, how does it work? It's time to go back to the wastelands. We're talking movies. We're talking Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, starring Anna Taylor-Joy, Chris Hemsworth, and Tom Burke. Written by Nick Lathoris and George Miller, who also directed. Chris, from now on, you may call me Red Dementus.
I mean, if you want. 45 years after the collapse, a young Furiosa is taken from her family. She will devote the rest of her life to finding her way home. This is her odyssey. Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of How'd You Like to Get Movie. As Scott said, we are going to be talking about the recent release Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. So, ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. Scott, take us away.
Okay. Like, I think this type of movie is always hard. I would think, like for me especially, because prequels is there isn't really any stakes, because in reality we can literally just watch Mad Max Fury Road and you already know where it's gonna go.
And you also aren't like, oh my god, Furiosa is not gonna get through this, because they're like a whole movie that comes after it.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I think to make these resonate and good, I think it's the supporting characters that really care, like have to carry it, not technically Anna Taylor-Joy, like, because like,
is it Joe or Joy?
Joy, yeah.
Okay,
but for some reason I just call her Joy.
You can call her Joe. We're friends, right? That's how we roll.
Did we just become best friends?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a little nickname we have for each other. You're
like, it's a Scott Anna thing.
Yeah, it's like me and Timothy. I just call him Shamalamala, and he's fine with that, right?
And she calls you unknown name, new phone. Who's this? So that's a cool nickname for you. Anyway.
I know we're not really gonna do spoilers or much. Like, one thing that I appreciated with this movie, like this is like 100% like a Hemsworth family like production, in which his wife plays two roles in this movie. He's in this movie. I think his dad cameos in this movie. And it's a little fun fact. Like, I don't know if you know this, in the original Mad Max, his dad was going to be part of that motorcycle gang.
Oh, like, really?
He was a student, and I guess he couldn't get in. Like, he couldn't get into it, but he hung out with that motorcycle gang. Like, he was friends with them, and they were trying to convince him to, skip school for a little bit to be part of this movie, but obviously he didn't. So yeah, it was like a whole like full circle moment for like the Hemsworths, right?
Okay, cool. And yeah, keep going, man.
Oh, fuck you. I thought you were just going to be like, oh my God, that's amazing.
That is amazing. No. I think that it's always cool. I mean, especially they are from Australia, even though the Hemsworths are always playing either Brits or Americans or whatnot. So I think it was probably cool to be shooting back in their home country using their original accents. I was wondering when I was watching, I was like, I wonder if Chris Hemsworth has difficulty like speaking proper. Like, I wonder if Australians, when they hear him talk, they're like, it's good, but it's not all the way back. Same with like the Brits and stuff, when they pick up American accents, like, do they find it trouble to really get back to their natural accent? I was wondering that as I watched it yesterday or whatever.
Well, I'm sure you can ask him. Let me DM him right now.
Yeah.
But one thing with this movie as well, it's to my one critique I always have in Hemsworth movies, like the guy can wear a shirt. You know, I don't understand.
You don't hire him to put him in like wool. That's not why you hire him.
but that's the thing. If you're gonna go all the way with like his face prosthetics, you know, you can at least like let the fucker eat so he doesn't have to have like the 6-packs all the time, right? Like, yeah, if you're already fucking him up face wise, like
I mean, let's be honest. I think the only part is a nose. Isn't that really what the biggest, like, especially for most of the film, it's really just looks like it's a nose.
I don't know, right? But it's the prosthetics, because you would assume like if he's like this leader of this wasteland, and it's all about like, you know, he cares about what everybody else's think, and he wants to please everybody. Like he wouldn't be muscular. He would have been got. Like he wouldn't have been eating as much, right? And I don't know what they were eating except for the, you know, human blood sausage that they slowly introduced that one scene, but then once they took that chef away, like what were they eating after the fact, right?
Looks like potatoes and cabbage.
But
so how did he keep that jacked body? On our next episode, Jack Bodies with Chris Hemsworth. What did you think of the film overall, though?
Like, if you liked Fury Road, you'll like this one as well. Like, cinematography is well done. I think story was okay. To me, honestly, I would have liked more. And I know she's not in the movie, but like I would have liked a progression, especially with, because this is what, a 2 hour,
it's almost 2.5 hours. Yeah, it's 148 minutes.
Yeah, so I personally would have liked, you know, like you could have had Anya the first like 60 minutes and then had, you know, Charlize the next, right? Like,
so you're saying instead of it basically being essentially Anna Taylor-Joy playing all of it, you could almost break it break it out between 3 different Furiosas: the youngest Furiosa, the Anna Taylor-Joy Furiosa, and then some Charlize Theron stuff like at the end. Is that kind of where you're going?
Yeah, like they had the end credit scene where, well, it wasn't really end credits, but the credit scenes were just snippets of Fury Road with
and the very end. This isn't a spoiler because we all know how. If you haven't seen Fury Road, then maybe turn off this podcast, go watch Fury Road, then listen to our episode of Fury Road. Yeah. They do that. You kind of they do bring it right up to like where Fury Road will start, right? Because you see the brides or whatever getting like loaded into the war machine, but they all do that, and like you don't see, even though that is Charlize Theron at age appropriately, like you never actually see that character's face, right? So
yeah, you do. They actually snipped like the scenes from Fury Road, like so all those.
Yes, the Fury Roads, but I don't believe
with Charlize. Yeah,
when you see them putting the women in the war rig, that's not in Fury Road, I don't think.
I'm assuming it was filmed for Fury Road because you do see Charlene's face.
Okay, wait a minute.
Because she, like, it's her like waving them in, right? Because the coast was clear. It was like literally like a 2-second, 3-second of her face, and then it just goes on to like Fury Road.
Yeah, which is like stuff that you would have seen in the film, right? So
yeah, and the same thing. Like the one critique, like I get it, it's a Mad Max saga, but I really didn't need the scene where you see like fucking, you know, him for like the split second too, like fucking taking a piss in his car. I don't remember what the car's name is.
Yeah, so first off, when I saw the Praetorian Jack played by Tom Burke, I was like, oh, look at this, he's kind of got that Mad Max vibe, right? Like the leather and stuff. But then you're like, okay, well, I mean, that's kind of how people dress in that period. And then they've got that like long shot, and there's clearly supposed to be Mad Max taking a piss, and you're like, but Mad Max, anyway, whatever. It's like, I mean, I get it, it's a cool little Easter egg, but I don't know if that actually makes a lot of sense because she's still so young. So what you're saying is that Mad Max has been in that whole space for say like another 15 years, and that's the first time he's really like tangled it up with like the war boys and stuff. Again, it didn't make a lot of sense
like
to me.
and that was the thing that like I was thinking as well, because like to me, I get it, like he can be the representation of whatever you want, right? Like he could be death and he's just showing up. He can he can be like fucking Indiana Jones and Raiders, in which he's there but he doesn't really affect the story much. And from timeline wise, I'm gonna assume this is between Thunderdome and obviously Fury Road, when he actually gets involved with the war boys and everything like that. Because
so that would imply that the community where Thunderdome happens has to be at least somewhat near, I guess. Because I don't know how much, like, I mean, sometimes these people do travel long distances. In
right,
all the films, at the end of them, they often go on big, long journeys, right?
Right. That's what I'm getting. Because if this community is split up through 3 territories of the water, the bullets, and the gas, yeah, why wasn't Tina Turner just fucking going after the fucking gas, right?
But Tina
Why
Turner,
was
again, not to turn this in, I mean, it is one of the few, the only 2 films that we have not done on our show are the original Mad Max and Thunderdome, so maybe we should rectify that at some point. When I remember from Thunderdome, not to go down this path too much, is that Tina Turner is not so much a warlord that like goes out and like colonizes and takes up. She seems to just have power over that community. Like I don't remember her having the same types of like almost standing armies that any of these other groups have. And again, it's been a long time since I've watched it, so I might be 100% wrong about it.
Right. But you would figure at one point, like the war boys would have been in the Thunderdome,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
They would have grabbed them and here's your entertainment, right? But that's the thing. Like Australia is like a vast land to like bring it down so close that apparently they were around so much. That to me, that's why I'm like, because like in that scene, like Furiosa is going through the desert, collapses, and then you see the Mad Max car, and then you see her now, she's with the cannibals or whoever, right? So who the fuck brought her there? It's like making it imply that technically Mad Max saved her, right?
So I think those are actually maggot farmers.
Yeah, but whatever, right? But what I'm saying is it's now making it implied that he's the one that brought her there, which now makes Fury Road like stupid because that's his first time there, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could imply that, or somebody. Yeah, Actually, now that you say that, that makes a lot of sense because it's like, what is the director trying to tell you? So there's this man on a hill with a car. She's in the middle of the desert. She collapses, and then she is somewhere else. The odds are those maggot farmers aren't going that far out there to find some rando body. So Jesus Christ, yeah. You actually make that scene seem even more ridiculous now that you explain it that way.
Yeah, because that's how I saw it. And like the one thing I enjoyed about this, and I don't know if you did or you're gonna push back on it because it's you.
It's what I do, baby. I push back.
Yeah.
Push it real good.
Is Hemsworth character, like, because he does have that kind of complete arc, and I like the final, like his motivation, especially his speech about hope, right? Like
that there is none.
Yeah, and then when he goes for the knife, and it's just a knife handle, and he was like, that wasn't hope, that was just instinct, right? Like to make it seem like I'm not less. But with him, like I was hoping for more kind of thing, right?
Okay,
like,
how so? Like more of what? Like more hand-to-hand combat? Like what were you thinking?
That's the thing. Like his backstory is flushed out, and like doing research for this, like this script was written before Fury Road,
Yeah. In order to develop the Furiosa character enough to make a film with her in it, basically.
Right. To be like, what was her backstory, blah, blah, blah. Right. So you have that. So this was before, right? And
originally they were going to shoot these back to back, like.
Right. And then there's a third one that's apparently supposed to be the last one, which is Mad Max Wasteland. But
and we'll get to like whether that's going to happen after
Yeah.
this underperforms. But let's
Yeah,
I'm very good at talking about underperforming. So
yeah.
I've lost my mojo.
Ask any woman, and especially when you haven't renewed your subscription.
Anyway, you were saying about the backstory.
So with Dementus, it's what's the word I'm looking for? Implied, I would say, that he's kind of like for anybody who watched The Walking Dead, he's kind of like a Negan character where he was a normal guy, he had a family. He's kind of the parallel of Max, where he had a family, his family gets killed by biker gang, you're gonna assume, but now he like goes kind of crazy and
like I wasn't born this way, I was created by circumstance. Yeah.
So now he's like the leader of a fucking biker
of a pack
gang.
He's the leader of a pack.
Yeah, and he's the alpha. And then he
that motorcycle chariot, very cool. I thought there was some very cool bike related activities going on.
Right, but like, just to be a tangent, how does that start? Like, how do you start it?
Well, you would have to start when you have to start all three bikes
at the same time.
Yeah. Well, no, you can start them all at different. You'd have to go over and be like,
but I mean, like, they would need to all be started to like go, right? And all you see them is pull it. And I'm like, how does that work? And then when he lets go, it just dies. I'm like, how does it work? But it is a cool visual.
Especially when he starts wearing the cape and he's like, it's like he's like a Roman emperor, right? So
yeah. So yeah, because like, to me, and like his motivation for I guess you could say saving or keeping Furiosa when she is a child is never really like, it's like, okay, you're gonna watch this, don't watch this, like, don't watch your mom be crucified, okay, do watch it. Like, he always goes kind of back and forth. I don't know if that's schizophrenia or whatever, and then he's like, here, hold this bear, right? Like, it's like sometimes he sees his child in her, sometimes he doesn't, and then at the end,
but then when he ends up, and I mean, spoiler, not a huge spoiler, because obviously we know that Furiosa ends up with Immortum Joe. When they're doing that negotiation, he doesn't really push that hard to not to keep her, you know what I mean?
And that's the thing,
it's not a red line. He's not like, go fuck yourself. And they, because then they could have said, well, either you take this deal or you're not walking out of here. Like, there was another way they could have got there. He's just like, great deal, boss. And maybe that's the point, is the show that like he is showing the side of being a father, but at the end of the day, he is so corrupted by his environment that he is always he's become totally self-serving, right?
Yeah. Well, they show the same scene in when you go visit Gas Town, right? Where he's there and he was like, well, we need to have a meeting high noon, and then all of a sudden the masses start fucking rioting, and then he was like, follow me, and they just do a circle and send the guys out, right? It's like, okay, like, to me, it would have been better if he, especially where the story goes, like right after that, it would have been better if he was the one that was like organizing that, instead of like seeming like he didn't organize it, and then all of a sudden he decides to take over Bullet Town.
Yeah.
Right.
So my perspective on this film was, I think, okay, so the film has done 75 million right now. I thought it was going to be maybe a slow burn and start to like build some momentum. It doesn't look like that momentum is building. It's got $168 million budget. It would be interesting because the Australian government gave them roughly 117 million in tax credits. So if this budget when we talk about like hard money, soft money, hard money is like cash in hand, tax credits, or like money you'll get back. So if this thing has a $168 million hard money budget, then that almost $120 million now makes this thing profitable. But if this is 168 hard plus 100 hard and soft,
giggity giggity, giggity goo. Stick around.
Plus another 120, soft money or a mix of that, then this thing is nowhere close to breaking even. So I would have to dig into those numbers a little bit. But the point is that this thing has 90% from the critics, 90% from the audience. So everybody likes it. So why is it not making money? So one of the things as I sat in the theater is, so Fury Road, first off, is a fucking wild film. The original Fury Road is like adrenaline mixed with crystal meth and then injected into your vein. It's a very, very high bar for a movie. I think out of the series, it's like either that or Road Warrior is the best. And then obviously second comes from that. Then I put this either with or below Thunderdome. And then like the other films, kind of cascade from that. But if you go into this film thinking you're going to see Fury Road or like a version of Fury Road, you're going to be kind of disappointed because all the other Mad Maxes, for the most part, take place in a much shorter kind of time period. This is a saga. Like, this is a long story arc. I mean, I do think that at points it gets a bit long, but I actually was kind of okay just sitting in the theater and letting this backstory like wash over me. But again, if you went into it with the expectations that you were going to see like most Mad Max movies, high adrenaline, high octane, you're going to feel a bit let down. And a 2.5 hour running time, I do find when I'm looking at films and like when I'm going to go watch them, as soon as I get over that 2 hour mark, I have to do some scheduling, right? It just seems like, and even the idea of like, do I really want to go to the theater for 2.5 hours? Like I have to be much more, or I have a podcast I have to do. I have to be much more excited, or I have to be excited about a film enough to endure 2.5, 3 hours. 2 hours, I almost make table stakes. And if you're running me a 90-minute film, I'm probably like, goody gumdrops, let's rock and roll. Like there's almost no consideration there. So it's a great story. It is a really great story. Like I said, does it have some slow points? Sure. But it has great action sequences, all that. But it's basically not a Mad Max movie. It's like it's in the Mad Max universe, but it's actually much more of a drama. Like an action drama, right?
Yeah, I would say it's a spinoff.
Well, it is a spinoff.
No. Like I wouldn't consider it without that one scene, it's not really Mad Max. But that's the thing. Like when you're, and that's why I was saying like prequels are hard. Going back, Pie in the Sky. Here's my idea for this movie. Right?
Okay, go.
So Furiosa is fucking like going in. She was taken from her kids. You see the like taken from her family. You kind of see that in Fury Road. She's trying to get back, right?
Yep.
So why not just have this as her being fucking the Mad Max, like she like Tom Hardy was in Fury Road, where she's the minor character, and you're having the war of Dementus and Immortan Joe fighting for these territories, right?
So you would have liked to see those big set pieces, like the big combat scenarios with the war, but like less getting up to that, more like let's just drop in on that war,
right? Because like in terms of the writing and the story, there's a lot of things that even when I left, I'm like, this like to me doesn't make sense, right? Like, okay, so, and spoilers, okay, so Immortan Joe's one son, pedophile.
Yeah.
Right. Kidnaps her. She escapes. And then for a certain amount of time, she hides as a war boy. Like they think
not quite a war boy,
or
like a mechanic or something like that, right?
Yeah. So she hides there. But you're telling me the girl who had perfect skin, perfect teeth, and super health, that Immortan Joe's like, we're gonna like
breed you
safe. Yeah, we're gonna keep you safe so I can breed you. At no point is looking for her.
That I found interesting too. You figured that like as soon, like he literally keeps them in a safe.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't notice when he like wakes up the next day and like one of his most maybe the most prized possession. Like, I mean, theoretically, what a writer would say is, oh, they did look for her, they couldn't find her. But like, because there's this scene where she escapes and the other brother is like, what the fuck are you doing out here? So you're telling me Mortem Joe isn't like, what the fuck happened? Well, last night, this dude was fucking out on the catwalk. And how many people have access to that vault? And let's line those motherfuckers up there and torture them till they tell me where my like golden fucking goose is. So yeah, I agree with you. I thought something very similar, but I was like, whatever. Like, clearly we're not going to find out about that because we just jump ahead like what, 5 years or something.
Who knows? Like, who knows? And then it becomes fucking, yeah. Like you never at one point see her being 100% mechanically inclined, right?
Yeah.
She's the smallest, so she's the one that jumps through and is able to like lift stuff. In that,
so you almost need the Rocky training montage.
Well, that's the thing. When you have it, when Dementus is about to storm this the green, that's not called the
Citadel.
The Citadel.
Yep.
You have a montage where she's fucking building a metal arm for herself, and I'm like, what the fuck did that happen?
Yeah, like you supposedly were taught how to drive a truck by Praetorian Jack. Okay, so again, some montage of them doing some Fury road runs would have been cool. Her learning to fight that stuff off. Okay, that's fine. I'll let that go. But yeah, you're right. All of a sudden, she's got this like dope ass arm that she made. It would have made more sense for one of the like that head mechanic to be like, and present that to her or something. Like, yeah, I get it. Like, and then also even then when that's when she's like, I need a vehicle, and then just has that piece of shit car. But unless there's something I missed, there's nothing about like, did she look out into the horizon and see Dementus escaping or something? Like, did I miss something? Because it's just like, I need a car. I'm like, okay, so she gets in the car, she goes out, then she steals another car, and then she chases Dementus. So did I miss something?
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like, it's always implied that he's out there, but
but out there is a big space.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It was just implied that he was out there, and it was like this, like, I don't even remember what the history man said, like in the narration, saying how long that war was going on.
It's been 84 years.
With the brides being such a focus in Fury Road, right? Like, at no point do you ever see what connects Furiosa to them, right? Like, why the fuck she cares so much about.
Yeah, why doesn't she just get the fuck out of there, right?
Right, because it like she, like in this movie, she was fine fucking leaving them there. Like, she just wanted to escape with Jack, right? But yeah, like,
and then she grows up and becomes Furiosa, and then all of a sudden has this affinity for them to the point that she steals them. Because man, if she had just in Fury Road, if she had just taken the war rig and fucked off, Mortem Joe would have been mad, but he wouldn't have launched an all-out war to go get her, because those women are the reason, because they're his breeding stock. Mm-hmm. So she could have just fucking left. She could have even just like left at any point. She'd been driving the Fury Road for supposedly years. She could have just been like, grabbed a vehicle and fucking gone. So yeah, I agree. It doesn't tie it in very well.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, they did, like I said, the end credits. You have like the lineup to Fury Road with Fury Road stuff. But yeah, like, that's my criticism of it. Like, is it a good movie? Yeah. Is it entertaining? Yeah. Like, I watched it with my son, and because he wanted to watch it only because I was watching it, and he didn't want to do chores. So he watched it, never watched any of the Mad Maxes before, and he left, and he was like, Dad, that's an L movie, man. He was like,
L movie, like a loser?
Yeah. He was like, yeah, it wasn't good, man. Like, he's like, why is this girl trying so hard? Like, I don't get it, right? He's like him, like, almost 13, like, he couldn't understand her motivations for anything.
So unfortunately, by building in this almost like requirement to see the film before, there's a part of the audience that can't engage with it.
Yeah, because he was like, I don't get it, Dad. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, well, it's a good movie, right? Like you got to watch the
I love how
endings
he's
if
like,
you
I
want to.
didn't like that. And you're like, no, it's a good movie.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
going to tell you
I'm
it's a good
like,
movie.
I know. I told him the same thing. I'm like, I liked it, but I'm like, you have to watch the other ones to kind of know what's going on with this, right? But and that's when I started thinking, like, based on his criticisms, I'm like, yeah, I'm like the connective tissue between the two, like motivation, stuff like that. Like by the end of it, you're like a Morton Joe is technically a hero here, but he's already in power. Like, no one, like, you never see how he grabbed.
How did he take the Citadel? How did he get war boys that are so devoted that, like, when he has them randomly pick one to commit suicide, he's like, any one of them would do this. All of them will do this. And that's why, like, I will destroy you kind of thing, right?
Yeah. So yeah.
I mean, I did think there was some cool dialogue around. So yeah, there is points where you're like, I'm kind of rooting for a Mortem Joe here. And I'm like, and I know him what a Mortem Joe is. He's an absolute piece of shit. But at points, and I think that is some good writing. Like the fact that at different points you actually like different kind of anti-heroes. They're not even anti-heroes. They're bad. They're protagonists. They're antagonists. You like them for different reasons. Or when Chris Hemsworth's speech, when he rolls into the Citadel and he talks about how Immortum Joe and them have created an unequal society. And if you join with me to overthrow, these leaders are only your leaders because you let them be your leaders. I will give water and everything. But it turns out he's also just a tin pot dictator, because when he does have power over anything, he lets it go to shit, right? So, yeah. You know, I've kind of given my reason why this film is, I mean, again, depending on how those tax credits work out, we're going to call it a flop for the point of this show. Why do you think it's not making money? Like, is there any other stuff that you saw that kind of is talking about what's holding this thing back?
Like, I'm trying to think, and I'll be honest, I didn't check, but it was something that I'm thinking, like, how I remember it. This is how Fury Road was as well, right? Like, it was one just long haul. Like, it won its first weekend, but then it just continued on, right? And then the more it opened in other territories is where it made all its money, right? Like, this was 100% international. Like, from what I remember, Fury Road was 100% more international revenue than it was domestic, and that's what made it popular. So, like, to me, I will pass. Like, I'm not going to cast judgment saying it's a flop yet, because I think a lot of these movies still have legs, and if the audience and the critics are so high, like, word of mouth, it takes a little bit to get word of mouth, right? My only criticism is because I was wrong with Fall Guy, because I thought it would be the same thing, but literally, what, 10 days after our podcast, they put it on fucking video on demand already. So I'm like, well, I'm wrong now, because now a lot of people are just going to watch it at home, right? So the box office isn't going to matter.
Well, and as soon as you do that, I mean, it doesn't always happen this way, but there's a very high probability that you are going to cannibalize your theatrical, right? There has been other films that have been able to do both, and they continue to. I think Barbie was an example. People were still seeing it in the theater and they were watching it at home. But often, yeah, it's like, I mean, if I can pay less or the same money, but I don't have to leave my house, and my whole family can watch it for the same ticket price instead of taking the whole family out for an $80 or $100 night, bam, like, that's an easy choice, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, I'm gonna reserve my decision on if this is a flop or not until I see if they're gonna put this on VOD and available at home quicker. I hope not. I hope it goes at least the 45-day or more window in which it does, the word of mouth does bring up. Like, when I went to go watch it, we went on a random Thursday, and the theater was half full for a Thursday, and I'm like, well, that's not
good.
too bad. Yeah. I'm like, no, I'm not too bad. You went on the weekend, so I don't even know what.
But I went on a weekend at like the 3 on a Saturday. It was also really nice out here. we were having good weather. But like today, as we record this podcast, it's raining like shit. So maybe those theaters are packed, right? And I know lots of other people who are like, oh, it's on my list of things to see, right? Like lots of people have been like, they're looking forward to see, they just haven't gotten out. So maybe you're right. Like people, talk to people, they're like, oh, I liked it. They read some reviews, they're like, oh, it seems good. And they just keep trickling in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's my hope, because like one, I do like the series, and I do hope, like to have just the idea that George Miller can finish the story. So I'm hoping Wasteland happens, because that would be what? Because when was the first movie? 60? Like late 60s, early 70s?
I think it was early 70s.
So yeah, like have somebody like one of these films coming out, like, and same director, decade. Same, yeah, it would be cool to kind of have him like top it off, right?
Do you think do you think he'll pass the torch? Do you think this will become something that even when Miller stops doing Mad Max, I don't know, fuck, does Disney buy it and then just there's like a million fucking
no,
Mad
well,
Max
this
movies?
Is Warner Brothers. It's a Warner Brothers property.
For now. until Disney buys them too.
No, like I think one, like, I think in terms of this universe, there is legs that you can put on it, that it doesn't have to be theatrics. Like you could have like a fucking Mad Max TV show and not even be Mad Max, right? Like you can have,
because we don't even know how, like, we don't know how the wars originally started that like decimated the world. We have some inclination. We don't get to see the as the world decays, like you said. And now actually with stuff like Furiosa, or sorry, Mad Max Saga, we've opened it up to be not Max centric. Right. So you could just keep going. There's a Mortem Joe. Was there like, I mean, Australia's like a fucking big place. What's going on the total east side? What's going on the west side? What's going on the north side?
If you go back to
what about even other places in the world?
Yeah, that well, even if you go back to Road Warrior, like you could have a series of the Pharaoh boy, because they created their own society after, and he became the leader of it.
That's
which
right.
Was peaceful, right? And they always remembered Max, right? Like you can literally have like Pharaoh boy coming up and building
his
utopia.
Society.
Yeah, right. So that's what I'm saying. There's so much that can be done in this universe that, to be honest, I do think this will go the route of Star Wars once Miller passes, because I think he still has some creative say on it.
But as soon as he's gone, somebody's selling those.
Well, if it is WB and they're just doing it out of respect for him, right? Because it is his vision. 100%. Like you're gonna have Mad Max on Max. It's Maxi Max on Max, right?
Nice.
So you'll have that, like, because everybody wants an IP. And if you have an IP that's already established, that makes it easier to gain audience. Like it's just gonna, it's just money being printed. Like
they will squeeze the blood out of this into a sausage.
yeah, 100%. And if it does get filmed in Australia and there are tax credits, right? Like, to be like I said, I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet, right?
Well, again, it could be that, like you said, kind of alluded to, that Miller has enough creative control to be like, I don't want to fuck my franchise at this point. I got enough money. I want to make cool shit. So we could say, Mad Max keeping Australia actors employed for 100 years.
Yeah. And like, I can also see it go the route of Kubrick with Eyes Wide Shut. Like because Miller's what, like almost 90 now?
Yeah, he's getting up there.
So like I could see if the Wasteland
he's 79. Sorry, he's not quite as close. Okay. Yeah, 79. But 80 still making big fucking action-packed films. Like that's a fucking big job, man.
Yeah. And I was reading like the one scene of the stretch of road that they called like the Stairway to Noah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That took 70 days to film.
That's so much shooting time.
Yeah, 70 days for one scene, right? Like, and I don't even think that scene what I think it was only like 5 minutes or 10 minutes in the whole fucking movie. But yeah, so like he's dedicated, he's in it, right? But if he was to pass, and this last movie is the script's already written, I could see fucking Warner Brothers backing up the truck to like a Villeneuve and just being like, we want you to finish this for him, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely doable. So do you recommend people see this? If so, in the theater, what's your take?
No, I do recommend it to go watch it. I do recommend to go watch it in theaters, because theaters are somewhat better, but also having, I think, that community approach of watching it, and especially the sound. Like the sound on here is fucking good. I do wish that they had more of Warboy with the fucking guitar just blasting, because he was only like a 2-second shot when that guy made fucking Fury Road, right?
Yeah. The fact that actor created an entire backstory for that character in order to play it without dialogue and really just rocking a guitar that shoots fire.
Yeah. So I could have used more of him, but.
All right. You got anything else?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so like Scott, I recommend you check this mofo out in the theater. Don't sit on your hands, go watch it, and like just settle in and just go, I'm watching a cool flick that is tied to some other cool flicks, but just don't expect Fury Road. Again, Fury Road was such a high bar too. I think it's always going to be hard to get up to that level. And so I'm going to leave with Wendy Id from The Guardian. It's a remarkable achievement by Miller. A piece of world building that is fully realized down to the last diseased putile on the last burrow-dwelling maggot farmer. And the action sequences, they're phenomenal.
And that is our wrap for the day. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. Tell your friends. If you want to get a hold of us, reach us at the www.howdyoulikethatmovie.com. To me, I'd be interested to see if they do it similar to this, because this could have been like the Petri dish test. Do they do the first half as Hardy and the last half as fucking Gibson? Gibson comes back for the last little bit.
Interesting. That's definitely a possibility,
right? Because I think
it would. Listen, it would be cool to see Mel Gibson in one more Mad Max, just because he is Max, right?
Right, but that's the thing. Like, is he still persona non grata? Right, like he's still in some movies, but
yeah, and he's still directing. He did Hacksaw Ridge and stuff like that. Like, he's still kicking around doing stuff. So
yeah, because I think now he's doing like he's directing a movie with Mark Wahlberg, like a faith-based movie.
Yeah, because like both of them are like pretty hardcore Catholics, right? So.
Production by Rod Shaver, Vader Monkey Productions.